Look, I don't mean to be harsh, but there are no prizes for ignoring reality, and we don't do that on this program. I've just mentioned that interest rate increases are putting enormous pressure on young people and families, the like of which are not understood by the Albanese government or Treasurer Chalmers, yet they persist with other policies further adding to cost of living pressures. And the worst of these is, of course, the energy policy. Energy prices skyrocketing, and business passes those on to the consumer, who's you, and then you pay again, not only at the checkout, but on your electricity bill. Yet after a remarkable half-century of service, the Liddell coal-fired power plant shut its doors last Friday. Why? Well, it was a truly remarkable power station. For 52 years, Liddell's 4 turbines generated power by spinning at a rate of 40 rotations per second. That means over its lifespan, each turbine rotated a whopping 82 billion times. Well, thanks to these turbines, Aussie households, businesses and manufacturers had cheap, reliable power for decades. Emphasise cheap and reliable. Well, unfortunately, no longer. Why? Government determination to get rid of coal and gas. Last Friday, Liddell shut its doors, even though its owner AGL didn't have to. That's the point that must be made. They didn't have to. Now, we've already seen the consequences of this. Last weekend was the first weekend without Liddell. Wholesale power prices spiked. On Saturday and Sunday, the average wholesale power price in New South Wales was $192 per megawatt hour. But the weekend before, when Liddell was still operating, wholesale power prices were $82 a megawatt hour. Last weekend, not 82, but 192. This means that power prices rose by over 130% following the closure of Liddell. Now, the worst part about all of this, Liddell didn't have to shut. After Victoria's Hazelwood Power Station closed in 2017, power prices suddenly rose by 85% in Victoria. Our politicians, including the Green activists on both sides, like Malcolm Turnbull, wet the bed. Turnbull began pressuring AGL not to sell the Liddell Power Station, to his credit, so it could keep running and so New South Wales could avoid similar power price hikes. But AGL, which was hell-bent on shutting the power station, wouldn't budge. I'll tell you why. Even after Alinta Energy turned up with a $250 million offer and a promise, that's for AGL, and a promise to put in $1 billion to repair the power station and extend its life to 2030, AGL didn't budge. AGL said the power station was to shut. That was it. And it was all about the money. The money. You see, back when this deal was on the table, the Australian newspaper reported that, quote, research from analysts at JP Morgan said it was unlikely the deal would ever eventuate due to a number of market and logistical reasons, unquote. Market and logistical reasons. JP Morgan said then in rather convoluted language, extending Liddell would likely have a negative impact on wholesale prices. I'll just pause there. My explanation, negative impact. In other words, if we keep the whole show open, the prices, wholesale prices of electricity will go down. And so it went on, and therefore the value of the rest of AGL's generation assets, it would support the growth of a competitor in electricity retailing, and a separation from Bayswater would be complicated with the two assets intrinsically linked. Now, don't worry about any of that. I'm just quoting that for you. Let me tell you what that means. It was better for AGL to let Liddell Power Station close so that power prices would rise. And AGL could charge more for the power generated by their other assets, including Bayswater Power Station and its wind turbines and solar panels. Short point. We've got companies in this country putting their short-term profits before the energy security of our country, and they're getting away with it. But we can't really blame them, I suppose, can we? If our politicians didn't pass legislation that allowed our power companies to behave in this way, we wouldn't have these issues. I'm sorry, but it's getting to the point whereby, I thought I'd never say this, nationalisation of our power stations may be the only way to keep the lights on. when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining. Someone's got to step in here. It's called corporate greed, and you and I are paying for it.